Good evening, everyone. Hope you're having a good evening. I'm going to do a talk on the state of the world in a moment, but first let's have a little bit of a meditation, this is a bit of a prayer. This is a Buddhist prayer, and it's to Amida. And Amida is a Buddha of infinite light, which is representative of the divine light within each one of us. So just breathe out any tension, be at peace, relax, be calm. Forget what's happened during the day, if anything has happened that you feel is negative. Because all that matters now is this moment. You can see me here, see the tree behind me and the lovely background. That's all that matters at this moment. So just breathe out any tension. Feel relaxed, very calm and very peaceful. Just breathe naturally. Through the nose if you can. If not, just breathe naturally. We are a link in Amida's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. We will keep our link bright and strong. We will be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than ourselves. We will think pure and beautiful thoughts, say pure and beautiful words, and do pure and beautiful deeds. May every link in Amida's chain of love be bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. So, the state of the world. Now, a while ago, I was passing a Methodist church, which isn't far from me. A few years ago, the old church was pulled down and a brand new one erected, which looked very impressive for modern times, only small but neat and clean looking. Modern looking, obviously we don't have churches like the old ones anymore, like the Gothic ones. Well, I'm not a Christian in the traditional sense, but I do like churches, chapels and cathedrals, mainly the ancient ones, because of the atmosphere. I often go into Manchester Cathedral to escape the rush of the city. It's like an oasis that I can go to. Once you're in, you close the door, you can't hear anything from the outside. It's beautiful. I mean, Liverpool has beautiful cathedrals too, especially the Anglican one, but both of them are very nice. And cathedrals all over the country and all over the world. But this day, I noticed that all of the windows on the door to the Methodist church and around the entrance had been smashed. Who would want to do something like that? Feral youths or children, or perhaps adherents to a Kali Yuga influenced religion. So what is a Kali Yuga influenced religion? Well, the Kali Yuga, as I've mentioned a few times in my talks, is the Dark Age or the Iron Age that started over 5,000 years ago and lasts in total for, it's said, 432,000 years. So we have 427,000 years to go, but don't panic. Whatever you do, don't panic. It's not all dark. There are cycles within cycles. Even we have our cycles of good and bad times, even in a day or an hour. You may get up in the morning and feel that you're in some kind of age of Kali, feeling really down, whatever. As the day goes on, you may go through the Bronze Age, the Silver Age, into the Golden Age if you're lucky. Most of us probably have a mixture of all these, but some people, everything goes right for them all during their life. So they're living in almost a perpetual golden age. Others are the opposite. Their lives are totally miserable, that they're living in an age of Kali constantly. But most of us, we have a mixture. And it's not just individuals, it's towns, countries, planets, perhaps even universes that go through these cycles. So anyway, if you want more information, look at my talks and articles on the subject of Kali and the Kali Yuga, which would prove that it's not as black as it's painted. It is no surprise that religions evolved over the last 5,000 years should be based upon violence and intolerance and a complete ignoring of the teachings of the one who it was based upon, as this is the overbearing pressure of these times of darkness. Even those claiming to be Christian wriggle out of any responsibility by believing that one does not necessarily have to live a good life. Just accept Jesus as your saviour, and all will be well for eternity, even if you were a serial killer or a tyrant who endorsed the death of millions. On the other hand, an atheist who spent their life doing good works and helping those less fortunate must necessarily rot in hell because they refused to accept the easy way out, or what they believe is the easy way out, the abdicating of any sense of responsibility. It is true that you can only reach the truth through Christ, but Christ is a principle, not a man. It is the same as the Buddha nature or Krishna consciousness. Christians mix up the man with the principle. Jesus was the man, a holy man, overshadowed by the Christ principle, by the Christos. As Siddhartha Gautama was overshadowed by the Buddha nature. Buddha just means enlightened. We all have the Buddha nature. We just have to bring it out. We all have the Christ consciousness. We just have to bring it out. As H.P. Blavatsky writes in The Esoteric Character of the Gospels, the coming of Christ means the presence of Christos in a regenerated world, and not at all the actual coming in body of Christ, Jesus. This Christ is to be sought neither in the wilderness, nor in the inner chambers, nor in the sanctuary of any temple or church built by man. For Christ, the true esoteric Saviour, is no man, but the divine principle in every human being. He who strives to resurrect the spirit crucified in him by his own terrestrial passions and buried deep in the sepulchre of his sinful flesh, he who has the strength to roll back the stone of matter from the door of his own inner sanctuary, he has the risen Christ in him or her. The Son of Man is no child of the bondwoman flesh, but verily of the free woman spirit, the child of man's own deeds and the fruit of his own spiritual labours. End of quote. So Age of Kali religions will always malign the truth and truth seekers because their minds follow very narrow grooves and they are unable to absorb deeper truths. So they can only think and speak within the confines of the dogmatic interpretations of the religions they follow. They are unable to speak and think for themselves with any clarity. Jesus told us to love our enemies and bless those that curse us and pray for those who despitefully use us. Also, to turn the other cheek and forgive not 7, but 70 times 7 times. Gautama Buddha told us that hatred never overcomes hatred, only love overcomes hatred. This is the eternal law, proving the identical source of their teachings. Any religion that promotes violence, intolerance, and anger is a false religion and ruled by the dark age we live in, and is a menace to society as a whole. We have to wonder, why are people in general so aggressive? Why are we as a society afraid of each other? Why are so many led along the path of self-destruction by those they should look up to? In the Mahachohan's letter, and the Mahachohan was the master, Theosophical master's mastery, higher up on the hierarchy, and he wrote, the intellectual portion of mankind seems to be fast dividing into 2 classes. The one unconsciously preparing for itself long periods of temporary annihilation or states of non-consciousness, owing to the deliberate surrender of intellect and its imprisonment in the narrow grooves of bigotry and superstition. A process which cannot fail to lead to the utter deformation of the intellectual principle. The other, unrestrainingly indulging its animal propensities with a deliberate intention of submitting to annihilation, pure and simple, in case of failure, and to millenniums of degradation after physical dissolution. Those intellectual classes, reacting upon the ignorant masses which they attract and which look up to them as noble and fit examples to be followed, degrade and morally ruin those they ought to protect and guide. Between degrading superstition and still more degrading brutal materialism, the white dove of truth has hardly room whereon to rest her weary, unwelcome feet. And later on, HPB goes on to say that, although I should say the Mahachohan goes on to say that it's time that Theosophy should enter the arena. So these intellectual classes rashly pursue certain courses of action without being aware of the consequences and the effect of their action upon others. And we can see that in many aspects of society. Anyone who is able to see the light through the darkness of the Kali Yuga should promote those qualities that make them shine forth as truly human beings. To become human, you have to become humane, develop those human qualities. There are many, many soulless beings in this world who consider themselves to be human, but they haven't developed those qualities that make them human. It's very important to understand that the light should not be allowed to go out under any circumstances. That's why Theosophy is still so important. Not just Theosophy, but other genuine spiritual ways of thought and meditation. You know, it's so important. We don't realize that. People are very kind of apathetic about spirituality. And many of us have done things we may regret in our lives, but it is all in the past now. And often such things help us to understand others who may be going through the same or similar. They say that the best person to help an alcoholic is an ex-alcoholic, etc. So there is always hope and always the love that lies at the heart of all things to sustain us and uplift us and to share with others who are groping in the darkness, looking for a friend in a world they feel has grown so cold. But looking back can drag us down. Looking forward may fill us with fear for the future, unless we can cultivate in us a spirit that learns from every experience and treats the whole of life as a gateway to enlightenment. If we have the right attitude, everything that happens to us can be used positively to awaken us to our true self. So no matter what a person's past, we are now seeing them in the moment. And if in the right environment, we see through the mask and into their inner beauty, because we only ever see a person in the present moment. Everything before and after has no meaning whatsoever. At this point, I was going to use a symbol called the unalome, which has a lot of meaning to it, but I couldn't really get it onto the talk. For some reason, it wouldn't work properly. So I'm going to do a separate, very short one out later on about this unalome, but it's very, 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 very important and very beautiful symbol that's used in Hinduism and Buddhism. Our lives are full of twists and turns. As I often say, the state of the world is due to a total misunderstanding of the beauty and dignity of human nature and the absolute preciousness of our lives and the lives of not just human beings, but all living things. Life is not cheap, life is beautiful, life is the most wonderful thing we can possibly conceive of. We put temporary material things before those that are permanent, and therefore get lost in the thick jungle of illusions and delusions. Can we not see through the masks to the beauty of another's soul, despite their outer appearance or the mistakes they have made in their lives? Can we not learn to love the divinity in them as the same divinity that is in us and all other living things? Theosophy teaches that even rocks have life in them. So we should learn to treat everything with gentleness and compassion. A theosophical master has said that sermons are preached even by stones, meaning everything we come across is helpful if we just know how to look at it and weave it into the tapestry of our lives. Everything, sometimes we meet people in a cafe, maybe a conversation of a few minutes, but it could change our lives. Or we see a book or whatever, or something in nature that just touches us, touches our hearts and makes us awaken a little bit more from our sleep. Of course, this is not easy, and most of us fail more often than we succeed, but at least it needs to be planted in our minds as a seed and worked upon at our own pace, even if it takes more than one lifetime. Music, poetry, and art can help a lot. I think some people, to me, are music, poetry, and art, just by the way they are. The aura they give off is music. The way they move through life is art. and the words are poetry, even if they only talk of the weather. Because it is the hidden side of someone that really matters. The outer is a mask, the persona, the mask. So I got the idea from this talk from a song by Calandra, which is called The State of the World. But they did another song called Slow Motion. And in that they say, got a million things to distract my mind. There's a million ways I could spend my time, keeping me from who I need to be, distracting me from what I need to do. I dive into an infinite ocean. It makes me devoid of all emotion. I am running in slow motion. I am running in slow motion forever. Got a single plan for this life of mine, but there's a million failures awaiting trial. Guide my feet so they can touch the ground. Ignore the noise till it won't make a sound. End of quote. So being devoid of emotion here, I believe, means transcending emotions which can hold us back. Well, the lower emotions, anyway. They give way to something far more wonderful and uplifting, and an awareness of the divine once the mists have cleared to let the sun of true awareness shine forth. A longing for something better and more beautiful in our lives. So we have to clear all the obstacles that prevent us seeing each other in a true light. Concepts and dogmas are barriers to natural appreciation of our fellow creatures, free from all the errors that a misunderstanding brings about. It's all about regaining our sanity, looking upon others as our brothers and sisters, and learning to love one another. Remember that all of your many lives have brought you to this point, listening to me in this precious moment. Everything, millions of years, billions of years have brought you to this moment, and brought you to every moment. And this is all that really matters, all that's real. Wherever you are is the only point in time that really matters. If we ignore the noise, we can find silence, even in a busy environment, because silence is an inner thing. Hafiz, the Sufi poet, says, a day of silence can be a pilgrimage in itself. A day of silence can help you listen to the soul play, its marvelous lute and drum. Is not most talking a crazed defense of a crumbling fort? I thought we came here to surrender in silence, to yield to light and happiness, to dance within in celebration of love's victory. That's beautiful, beautiful words. Certainly, we fill our lives with noise all the time, inner and outer, but there must be also be the time for silence, to listen to the voice of the silence. And then the silence may not be what we imagined it to be, but a portal to richer senses and intuitions. Yes, in silence we may celebrate the victory of love over hatred and indifference. I believe we commune more in silence, if that silence be between those who have a heart in common. Otherwise, it may be uncomfortable. But if you feel at ease in silence, you know that you have a soulmate. Times of silence and times when you could talk forever. They alternate. That special feeling that is love, despite the restrictions imposed by tradition and narrowness of thought. Yes, to yield to the light and happiness. Just yield to light and happiness. But how can that be found in a world that tries hard to crush those very things in us? It's all about realizing that the inner self is untouched by all the terrible things that go on around us and often within us. And that it dwells in a place of perfect peace that nothing can disturb. But to find that place and go to live and love there is not easy. The world always calls us back. To go to Krishna's abode does not mean to abandon your worldly duties, but to go about them with a different focus, to see them in a new and a beautiful light. Mundane tasks take on new meaning and performed in the light of the higher self. And I'm lucky to meet so many beautiful people in my life, for whom I find inspiration and encouragement often. Young or old doesn't matter. We are all pilgrims on this sacred journey into silence. and we all help each other, often in ways we or they do not understand, not with the mortal mind anyway. In this way, we learn to love, even if that love is not returned. The poet Shelley states, "Thou demandest what is love. 'Tis that powerful attraction towards all that we conceive or fear or hope beyond ourselves. When we find within our own thoughts the chasm of an insufficient void, and seek to awaken in all things that are a community with what we experience within ourselves. If we reason, we would be understood. If we imagine, we would that the airy children of our brain were born anew within another's. If we feel, we would that another's nerves should vibrate to our own, that the beams of their eyes should kindle at once and mix and melt into our own, that lips of motionless ice should not reply to lips quivering and burning with the heart's best blood. This is love. This is the bond and the sanction which connects not only man with man, but with everything which exists. We are born into the world. There is something within us which, from the instant that we live, more and more thirsts after its likeness." End of quote. How often does our love reach the depths and intensity that Shelley writes of in the quote? We often accept the rind instead of the fruit. What we think of as love may be just emotions or lust. That is why so many relationships fall, because the fire burns out. This is because we are not touching the soul of another, not communing heart to heart, not forming a link that may last from life to life. It is rare and beautiful beyond words that we can have that feeling for someone. In life, we have varying relationships with others, from maybe dislike through indifference to liking, and then to love of one kind or another. The ultimate is when we see the same spirit in all living things and learn to love that very spirit no matter what the outer form. Sending out loving thoughts and trying to bring a little light into the darkness that enshrouds some. This then may go some way to bringing love and peace back into the hearts and minds of many, and therefore the state of the world will change for the better. Kindness, compassion, tenderness, and hope are what the world truly needs to leaven the consciousness of humanity with the true light that shines in us from the spiritual sun. And only the clouds of our thoughts and emotions prevent its manifestation. And so to end again with Hafiz, build a house for men and birds, sit with them and play music for a day, for just one day. Talk about that which disturbs no one and bring some peace, my friend, into your beautiful eyes. And thank you. We'll just finish with a little bit of peace and quiet and tranquility. Just try and send out lovely, radiant thoughts into the world, thoughts of peace, love, harmony. Let's link our hearts together, wherever we are. Just feel that we are one heart, one shining, glowing heart, radiating out peace, love, and harmony. Form this connection, just for a few moments. Just for a few moments. Om Shanti, 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 peace, peace, peace. Peace on earth and goodwill to all beings. I send my love and peace to all of you until we meet again. Thank you.